Today is February 17th, 2023. I'm Gabriele Fellows with the Museums of Lake County, and this is an oral history interview with Barbara Christwitz. Barbara, how are you doing today?
I'm happy and healthy, thank you.
To get started, what can you tell us about your name? Were you named after anyone?
My name is Barbara, and my mother didn't name me after anyone in particular. My last name used to be Gilchrist. My husband's name used to be Minkwitz. So we put our last two syllables together to make Christwitz.
Oh.
And that means child of Christ.
Oh, okay.
Gilchrist meant servant of Christ, and then Witz means son of, something like that. So that's how we developed our name. We're probably the only ones in the world with that name.
Oh, nice. And what is your date of birth and how old are you?
I'll be 71 in about a week, and I was born 2/26/1952.
Where were you born?
In Huron, South Dakota, Huron, named after Native people.
And what were your parents' names?
Warren Gilchrist and Esther Ekman.
And your mother's still alive, right?
She's 93 and she still drives.
Wow. And where does she live?
In Hitchcock and in Huron, South Dakota, where we were all born.
Do you ever visit her?
Once a year for about a month.
Cool.
We go to the South Dakota State Fair.
Oh, okay. Do you have any siblings?
I have a sister, an older sister, and two younger brothers.
And where do they live?
Janie lives in Denver and in Florida. And Tom lives in Springfield, South Dakota. And John lives in Rapid City, South Dakota.
And where were you raised?
Mostly in Hitchcock, South Dakota, not far from Huron, South Dakota.
And where did your ancestors migrate from?
My mother's side, all German, and my father's side, kind of a mix of European English and Scottish. The name Gilchrist is Scottish.
And who would you say raised you?
My parents.
And what does your father do for a living?
He was the town banker.
Oh, how did you get into that?
Well, he didn't want to farm with his father so much, so he decided that it was time for him to go into the town and start at a local bank, and then he kind of worked himself up to be the banker for the Farmers and Merchants Bank, and this little town of about 150 people. Well, probably more like 100 people.
Oh, okay.
In the town, yes.
And did your mother work outside the home?
Yes.
What did she do?
She taught third grade for 20 years.
Oh.
And I think she did that most of the time, and then did quite a bit of volunteer work as well.
Where did she volunteer?
Well, she tried to take smoking out of the restaurants with the Lung Association. And so she would go into a restaurant and say, knowing full well that there was no smoking section. And she said, take me to the smoking section, please. And then they'd say, oh, we don't have a smoking section. And so she'd leave the restaurant.
Oh, okay. So she'd seek out restaurants that had smoking sections.
Oh, and she wanted them to know that they wouldn't get her business if they didn't have a smoking section.
Oh, okay.
And would keep the smokers separate from the non-smokers. But then that's a moot point now because all places have no smoking.
Oh, right. And when did your parents get married?
1947. And I always say 2 days after my husband was born.
Oh. What's your husband's name?
William Edwin Christwitz. He used to be William, and now he goes by Edwin.
So tell me some of your earliest childhood memories.
Okay. Well, I remember we'd go on vacation, and one time we went to Battle Lake in Minnesota, and I remember going to Knott's Berry Farm when we traveled across the United States. That's in Southern California, and I remember ordering buttermilk, and my parents said, "You're not going to want buttermilk," and I said, "Oh yes, I want buttermilk." And I think I thought it was eggnog, and they said, "Well, if you order buttermilk, you're going to have to drink it." And so sure enough, the waitress brought in the buttermilk, and it tasted awful. And I said, I can't do this. I can't drink this buttermilk. And I sat there for a long, long time before my parents gave up and said, "Okay, we'll leave." So that was one little childhood memory. And I remember just being so happy to go swimming when we'd get to go visit my cousins and my grandma, and we would go out to the farm and visit my cousins because they were my age, and we'd build a fort, and it was just fun to be with them on the farm. Yeah, I guess just the normal stuff. I remember going to school in one school, and then when my dad started banking in Hitchcock, then moving to this little town, and let's see, I guess childhood memories, learning to play the clarinet, and that was part of childhood. And going on bicycle rides, learning to ride the bicycle, that was a big deal.
Did you have a best friend as a kid?
Oh, of course, yes. Sally Holtz and I would play hopscotch every day after school until we got in a fight, and then we'd both go home mad.
Aw. And did you have any hobbies as a kid?
I'm sure I did. Let's see, what did I do I think I just liked to swim and I guess I made some crafts. Let's see, we made pot holders. I remember making pot holders on a loom.
Oh.
That was kind of fun. Did some finger painting. I think reading was a big part of we'd go to the library and check out books. I liked doing that.
Do you remember having a favorite book?
We did the Laura Ingalls Wilder books, that series. My grandma made sure that we all got a series of the Laura Ingalls Wilder, because DeSmet, South Dakota was only about half an hour from where I was born, and that's where many of these books took place, was in DeSmet, South Dakota. And then oddly enough, my mother gave me the book How I Was Born as probably about a 7 or 8 year old, and I found that pretty intriguing. So that was kind of a favorite. Let's see, what else? I remember the 4th grade teacher would read Nancy Drew books to us.
Oh, okay.
And those were great mysteries. It was fun. Right after we'd get back from lunch, she would read the Nancy Drew books.
Neat. And did you have any pets as a kid?
Oh, of course. We had Tommy Kitty. And Tommy Kitty was this great old yellow cat, and he got run over, and then they put him down in the basement, and sure enough, he was up walking again after he got run over. So that was one of his 9 lives, and he didn't die in that one. And then we moved from one town to another, which was about 28 miles away, and we didn't see him again after we moved. But then my mom said that she thought she saw him in the alleyway where we used to live, and we kind of think maybe he made his way back to that house. So yeah, we had lots of different kitties. Not so many dogs, but lots of. I mean, probably five different kitties through growing up.
And did you have a favorite subject in school?
Oh, let's see, what would that have been? Probably reading class. I think that would be it. It wasn't my all-time favorite, but I remember we would do book reports, and one time I hadn't read a book, so I just made one up. I just made one up on the spot. Made up a title and an author, and I think the teacher didn't even know the difference.
And where did you go to high school?
The same town. It was I went from 4th grade till 12th grade in the same school building, basically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was, like I said, it was a town of about 100 people, and it was all through, and the same classmates, all the way through grade school and high school.
Did you have a favorite teacher?
You know, my favorite teacher was my 3rd grade teacher, and she was just the best. She and I corresponded for until I was way beyond college. She had stopped teaching, and she raised her family in Aberdeen, South Dakota, where she helped her husband farm. And then I lost touch of her, and I just couldn't figure out why she didn't answer my letters. And finally, I saw on the side of the road that her name, and so I wrote to her husband, and he said that she had died a long time ago, that she had died of diabetes.
Oh, wow.
And that was quite young. And she had had all of her kids. I think she had one set of twins and then 3 others. And he wrote a really nice letter to explain that she had died.
Did you have a mentor as a kid?
I suppose my English teacher in high school, she was quite supportive. She and her husband were both quite supportive. That they encouraged my talents, and in a little tiny school like that, one can kind of raise to the top of the class pretty easily. And so I was able to excel in school, as well as music and drama and declam, and this one teacher thought that I was doing pretty well in music, so he said, I think you need a private teacher. So then I would drive back and forth for private lessons, and that worked out well, because then, as age 16, I got a chance to go with the School Band and Chorus of America, to a European tour. And that was just a goodwill tour. We weren't great musicians, but it was to spread goodwill among other countries and to expand our horizons as teenagers beyond just the Midwest, for instance.
Mm-hmm. And did you have any goals or dreams for when you grew up?
Well, I was going to be a psychiatrist.
Oh.
And then, because I had such a struggle with compulsive overeating, that I thought, I think I need to understand why I would eat compulsively like this. And so I thought I'll try to be a psychiatrist. And then I took the medical college admission test, and didn't do really all that well on that. And so I knew I would have to study harder to get a better grade on my MCAT, they call it. And then at some point I sort of lost interest in that idea. I just thought that might be beyond my capabilities. So I guess I could say at one point I wanted to be a psychiatrist, and then at one point I wanted to be an eating disorder therapist. Neither of which I've done, actually. But
did you go to college?
I went to college, and I went to a graduate program.
What college did you go to?
South Dakota State University. That's 2 hours from where I was born, and I studied. I graduated with clinical laboratory technology. So that made it so I could work in a laboratory. I worked at Sioux Falls, South Dakota, at Sioux Valley Hospital as a medical technologist. So that's doing blood draws and then testing the blood. So I was able to test blood, test urine, cross-match blood, microbiology, test for different diseases with microbiology. So it was a full service hospital. I worked there for 7 years, and then while I was working at the hospital, I went over to the Baptist Seminary where they had a course in clinical laboratory, or what was that called? It was pastoral counseling. So that was where I started learning to be a therapist. Only not just a regular therapist, but a pastoral therapist.
Oh, okay. What is a pastoral therapist?
It's a therapist like anybody else, but the client knows that you're willing to pray for them, and so I also have done that with people to be a prayer support for them.
So talk about the other jobs that you've had and how you made it out to Lake County.
Okay, I worked, from being a clinical laboratory technologist, I then decided I wanted to work in a it's called the ARC Retreat Center. So this is an in-home, not in-home, but it was a place in Minnesota, in the woods in Minnesota, north of Minneapolis, and they called the ARC, stands for Action, Reflection, and Celebration. So this was where people could come and just take a retreat. So we were about 5 or 6 of us who were on staff at this retreat center and I was there for about 3 years. And it was quite exciting, the people that would come through the doors of that retreat center. They would spend time or else be on retreat where some of us would provide inspiration for them, and then most of the time they just would have quiet time. So we would provide meals and change their beddings when they left, and it was just a nice time of my life to be in that situation for 3 years. And then from there, I was an adult daycare director in the town where I grew up, or in the town where I was born, and then I also went to during that time I decided I wanted to study Gandhi, and Gandhi being a man that I admired, and his ways of working for peace in the world. So I went on a trip to India with a group of people, and I met a guy there, and I told him that I think I want to be an eating disorder therapist, and I probably need to spread my wings. So he was from Berkeley, and he said, well, Berkeley has all kinds of ways to be a therapist, so to study for therapy. So my grandma said, Barb, I was age 35, she said, you're not getting any younger. You might want to see if Paul is worth visiting in Berkeley. And I wasn't all that attracted to Paul. But anyway, I took off in my other grandmother's Oldsmobile, because by that time she didn't have any legs. She had diabetes. So anyway, I inherited her car, basically, and took off in her Cutlass Oldsmobile with all my possessions and drove to Berkeley. But it took about a month because I took time to visit people on the way. And then I did study with a woman named Janine Roth, who has written the book Breaking Free from Compulsive Overeating. So I studied that for a little bit, and then I got some kind of odd jobs, like in-home care for people. I worked for something called Families United, where you take care of people that so that their family can get away. These are developmentally disabled people. So I worked for them for a few years, and then I found out about what was going on at it was well, now it's Woodland College. What was it at that time? Anyway, so I worked for 10 years at the local college, just over there, and I worked as a tutoring specialist and in the GED program. That was just a delight to work with people, with students and with my colleagues, working with GED. And that was here in Clear Lake, and I would mostly ride my bike every day to school, and what was fun was just in the last half hour, I was on the sidewalk here in Lower Lake, and this man said, "Hi, Barbara," and I looked at him and I thought, "Oh, help me with your name," and he said, "Umberto." So I'm going, "Really?" And he said, "Yeah, I was a student over at, Yuba College is what it was called when I was there." So he said that he had remembered me as one of the instructors, and that now he has the restaurant just a block away from here, as well as the tortillas that he sells, or tacos or something like that. And so I'm planning to go have lunch over there after that. But it's so much fun to run across students that I've had through the years. And one day I was walking on the streets of Clear Lake, and this former student said, "Oh, I remember you. You were the one that, when I went to jail, you sent me my homework and you told me I better do my homework in jail."
So what classes did you teach at the college?
I taught the GED, which and GED is reading, writing, and arithmetic, basically. And then in the afternoons, I would be in the tutoring center. My favorite was to teach algebra. There's just something about algebra that's so tidy that you make everything work, and it just makes so much sense, and I can kind of lose myself in algebra problems.
Mm-hmm. So why did you move to Lake County?
Edwin and I got married in 1988. His parents lived in Kelseyville on Kelsey Creek Drive. And his parents, they decided and we decided that they could use some help from Edwin, and we could use their help by staying in a camper trailer on their property. They had an acreage. So we first moved to Clear Lake, to Kelseyville on Kelsey Creek Drive. Then 10 years after that, his parents had died. So we found a mobile home here in Clear Lake for $10,000, a fixer-upper, and we were able to pay cash for our home, which that was nice to be able to. And it has taken quite a bit of fixing up, but it's okay. I like our home, and I like the neighborhood where we live here in Clear Lake. We live over near Pomo School.
And how long have you been married?
Since 1988.
Do you have any children?
We have no children. Neither one of us have ever had children, so we borrow other people's children. I helped with the after-school program at Pomo School for a few years, and then next week I'll be going over with my friend. We're playing clarinet duets at the after-school program in Upper Lake.
Oh. Well, why did you decide not to have children?
Well, Edwin told me first off when we met that he'd had a vasectomy. So that makes it a lot rougher to have children.
Yeah.
And I'm not so sure that I would have been that stable as a parent. I don't know, maybe in a former lifetime I've had children, who knows, but it just didn't seem necessary to have children. I like children, but I just don't know that I would have been a great parent.
So talk about the group that you co-founded, CC4C.
Okay.
Talk about what it is and what you do for the community.
Okay. Well, first of all, Gabriela, I want to thank you for making a wonderful video that is about CC4C. And in fact, it's on our website, which is cc4cl.org. And you can find that video, which tells quite a bit about citizens caring for Clear Lake, CC4C. So it started out when a little girl came to my house and said, I want to earn some money. I thought, okay, you're on. And I gave her a little grocery bag, an empty grocery bag, and I said, you go around here in the neighborhood and pick up litter. And when you bring it back full of litter that you've cleaned up along the street, I'll give you $1. And I did, and she did. So then her mother came by, and her mother wanted to pick up some litter. So I thought, okay. So then I went to a party, and I was telling this man there that wouldn't it be great if there was a pot of money to give people to encourage them to pick up trash and to pay them money to pick up trash. So he called back and he said, how about $10,000? And I said, that will be fine. So that's how Citizens Caring for Clear Lake started in, what was it, about 8 years ago now. And then we got under the umbrella of North Coast Opportunities, and now it has expanded quite a bit to, like while I was bicycling over here, somebody called and said, could I get a $60 dump voucher for going to the dump? And I said, yes. The way you do it, you tell us ahead of time. Well, first of all, we tell you to take your debris to the dump, take your recycling to the dump, pay for it, then bring back the receipt, and we can pay you up to $60 once a year. So this is to encourage people to use the dump instead of go out to Sulphur Bank Road and dump it over the side of the hill.
Right.
There's a woman who needs community service, and somebody had dumped near the creek there by the library, and she needs 90 hours of community service. So she went out for 45 minutes and picked up that dump site. So we work with people who need community service because they've gotten in trouble with the law. And then there are also, another young woman is our neighbor, and she needs, I think it's 15 hours for every hour of school, for every year of school. She needs 15 hours in order to graduate of community service. So we've worked with the Upward Bound class at the local high school here, just in Lower Lake, and then we've also worked with people who Mendel Lake Alternative Service. That's the ones that get in trouble with the law. And then we have cleanup days too, where, this is what's so exciting, is that there's a free dump day coming up the end of February, where people can come and bring their whole load of garbage to Redbud Park, and then we have trucks taking that to the dump. So our goal is to not live in squalor in Clear Lake, that we want a cleaner town and that we can be proud of and clean. And then there was another fellow Troy, who called me last night, he said, so I'm going to camp out at on Sulphur Bank Road tonight, and he's also going to be driving Sulphur Bank Road regularly, and looking for people that are dumping, because that seems to be a favorite place to dump, because it is so barren of houses. And it's so beautiful as well. If you drive up onto the top of Sulphur Bank Road, you can see Borax Lake and a great deal of Clear Lake. It's just beautiful, and it's just makes me cry when I think of people throwing their debris over the side of the cliff. It's on Sulphur Bank Road. And
what other areas are dump sites in the county?
They're all over. It's not just Clear Lake. It's any back roads become dump sites. We are now, Citizens Caring for Clear Lake is presently under the umbrella of North Coast Opportunities, but we are in the process of becoming our own 501c3. So once we do that, we could apply for grants on our own. If we could get a grant to pay people to take stuff to the dump, that would solve the problem. Because people don't want to pay. They don't want to go to the trouble of going to the dump. But if they thought that they would get money for taking stuff to the dump, I think that would clean up our city and our county just like that.
Is that the main reason they dump, is the money, having to pay?
I think it's convenient. If I can throw it away within a mile of my house, that's what I'm going to do. I mean, that's kind of what we're thinking. Another reason I think they dump is because somebody pays them to dump.
Oh.
And so they say, okay, I'll take it to the dump, and then they don't take it to the dump.
Oh, wow.
They pocket the money, and they go out to Sulphur Bank Road. And we have a couple of suspects of who we think, and that's why this one guy is camping out there. He would like to catch who's doing it, without risking his life, obviously.
Right.
But
what are the main items that people dump?
big stuff, big stuff, and bags of garbage, like big stuff, like appliances, and you'll see. Well, okay. There's a fellow named Joseph Wand who owns, with a LLC. What's that stand for? Anyway, it's a company out of Santa Rosa. They own 900 acres out on Sulphur Bank Road, and somebody drove way up a steep hill on his land, and it took us 5 pickup loads to bring that, to clean it up. And it was a big screen TV. It was a hide-a-bed. It was garbage just strewn all over the place. And like I said, it took us 5 pickup loads to clean that up.
Wow.
And it was also, we have something called we have gift cards. So people who needed gift cards, if they work for an hour, we can give them a gift card to one of the local grocery stores, or to or get a transportation, a bus pass, and so it's nice to be able to give people gift cards for their work to clean up the city, and so people came up there, up on that steep hill to help clean up that particular dump site. But it's just amazing what people throw away. And my one friend has this great jacket, and she got it from a dump site. And people will say, "Where did you get that jacket?" It was from a dump site. But it's tires. That's another thing that is a favorite. But there again, if we start, well, okay. So think about it. Remember when people could go and recycle their cans and bottles? They would get money for that. And how long, how long would they stand in line to redeem these cans and bottles? Some of them would be there for an hour in the blazing sun. And I'm thinking that if people do the same thing with garbage and debris, that things would clean up. And I've noticed since they closed the recycling site that there are more cans and bottles on the sides of the road now because people aren't picking them up.
So how many volunteers do you have, and who are they?
We have a list of maybe 150 volunteers. In any one day, if 4 people come out, sometimes we're lucky. It's not as well attended as I wish it were. And maybe it's because we don't have enough parties and don't serve enough hot dogs and beer. I don't know. But what we say is, Citizens Caring for Clear Lake is a front for building community. And so I think it's really important that we make it fun. And we say, if you're not having fun, don't do it.
And why is it important to pick up litter?
It offends my sensibilities. If I'm bicycling along the highway and I see a bunch of trash, it doesn't feel good. And I do not want to live in squalor. Maybe it's that German side of me that says, no, we can't have garbage in our lives. There's a place for garbage, and that's up at the dump, and to recycle it, and to pre-cycle it, to not take packaging in the first place, to not use styrofoam. The fellow who runs CNS Waste, Bruce McCracken, has said styrofoam should be outlawed. I agree. Styrofoam should be outlawed. It doesn't break down in the landfill.
Oh, right. So music is a big part of your life. Talk about playing the clarinet and about where you perform.
Okay, last Wednesday, we performed at Orchard Park. First, while people were waiting for their lunch, we performed there, and we played Mignani and Rachmaninoff and Mozart and Hava Nagila, the Let's Celebrate. We played polkas, and this was while people were waiting for lunch and while they were eating lunch. And I'm not sure that it might have been a little bit of a distraction for them. We'll have to ask. And then we went into the memory care unit where people have problems with Alzheimer's, and it was interesting how well received we were at the Alzheimer's unit. They even had a kitty cat that had been astray, and she seemed to like it too. So we played at Orchard Park, and the week before that we played at Meadowwood, and that was really well received. They said, please come back. We've played at almost every school in the county for their after-school program. When we go to Upper Lake next Thursday, that will be the last of the public schools that we've been to. We haven't even tried the private schools yet, but we've been Middletown and Upper Lake and Lower Lake and Clear Lake, and there are, I guess, two in Clear Lake and one in Lower Lake at the elementary school, and it is fun to play for the children. They asked for our autograph last May, which was funny. We've gone to the senior center, and then we played in this room. That was Christmas. There was a hospice service.
Okay.
And so we played Christmas music. And I guess that's probably, and these are all duets. Neither one of us are in the symphony.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Who do you play with?
A fellow named Jim Leonardis,
Oh, okay.
and he used to run, he used to farm, organic farming, and then he sold his farm and retired here in the last few years.
And what's your favorite part about performing?
Oh, it's when I feel at one with the music. That sometimes I can just get goosebumps just because it's beautiful. It's beautiful music, and when we're playing in tune, and I play a part, and then he plays a part, and we're flowing together. It's just when the spirit sort of moves through the music, and I think of the clarinet being a little bit like spirit, that it's the flow of air, and flow of air through the reed can make it happen. There's no electronics with a clarinet. It's just the wood with holes in it, and the metal of the keys that make this instrument play, but it can't be played until I push air through it, and then the reed causes a vibration, and that's how the music can happen. And it's happened for centuries, where I'm not sure how long. I could look up the history of a clarinet, but it used to be a tree, and then now it is a music. It's an apparatus. It's a tool for bringing music to people.
So you've won several awards, some of which include a Stars of Lake County Award and a humanitarian award from the NAACP.
Yeah.
Talk about all the awards you've won and how it makes you feel.
Well, winning an award or being honored with an award through the NAACP is very gratifying. I just read the book, The Color of Law, and how our government caused the segregation that it did through the years since slavery was abolished. And I feel guilty as a white person sometimes of having so much privilege that was just given to me just because it's the color of my skin, and how much disadvantage people innately have when they're born with a different color skin. It's not fair. The cards are stacked against people who are African American. That's just how it is. So the NAACP is a group, and that stands for National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. That's how it was started. I don't think people use the word colored anymore. But that is one connection to try to right some of those wrongs that have stayed with us through the centuries. To be honored by the NAACP is a gift. That I could be respected for that. Yesterday, I was on the radio on Women's Voices, and Women's Voices is led by, is that the word, led by? It's hosted by Akila Ilamin and by I'm blanking. I know her very well. I'll think of it. But anyway, both African American women, and powerhouses. They're both absolute powerhouses. The woman whose name I'm not coming up with led the Martin Luther King Day. She organized it, and there are some really great women, African American women in our community that know how to get the job done. Lynette. That's her
Oh,
name,
okay.
Lynette and Kirkham, Lynette Kirkham, and her brother is equally a powerhouse. I think her sister was on city council in Berkeley. Their whole family are activists. So anyway, NAACP is one that I feel real good about. And then did you ask about Stars of Lake County or something? I think this was because I got nominated because of our supervisor Bruno Sabatier. He was happy with what we've done with Citizens Caring for Clear Lake. I am not the only person in Citizens Caring for Clear Lake, but I think my name comes up quite a bit, so they chose my name. But that award was definitely on behalf of CC4C to get that, and that was because we're working in our community to try to make our town a better place.
What other awards have you won?
Well, let's see. I think there was one called Women of Lake County, and that was one that also that's our our House of Representative Garamendi. He's got, I don't know, 4 daughters or something. So he does this thing yearly of women of the state from different counties, and I think there again I was nominated by probably somebody on city council that they were happy with what we've been doing with Citizens Caring for Clear Lake. So I think maybe those are the ones that I'm aware, that I'm come to mind, and it's real nice to be recognized. It's gratifying.
So, were you involved with the Lake County Co-op?
Mm-hmm.
And what happened to it?
Oh, it has evolved into something else. The Lake County Co-op got, well, let's see, I think there was some burnout. You know, it's a real big job to come up with food once a week and to get boxes out. And also, we weren't able to get so much locally raised food. The farmers are doing other things. I know Jim, my clarinet buddy, had been supplying food for the Lake County Co-op, but it just is a lot of work. So when he retired, that was one farmer that we couldn't do. And even mostly farmers come from other counties with their food nowadays. I think the other provider in Upper Lake, I think they went into growing grapes more than and organic grapes.
Right.
And I think probably also grain, maybe wheat and barley, and I shouldn't say for sure. I'm not 100% sure. But anyway, that co-op now has been taken over by a private family, and that's Val and Veronica, and they call it Lake County Plus, Lake County Organics Plus.
Oh, okay.
And I get a box of organic food every month from them, and it's wonderful food. And I pick it up at the chamber, the Clear Lake Chamber, on just over here on Lakeshore Drive.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. So it's and it's affordable, but one pays more for organic food and it's top quality food. And we got our greens and our broccoli yesterday from the what used to be the Lake County Co-op. And I used to fill boxes. I would go there, but now those boxes are being filled in Hidden Valley Lake.
Have you ever traveled outside the United States? And if so, where did you go?
I certainly did, and that was, like I said, when I was 16, I went on the School Band of America, and I think we were gone all of 2 weeks or something and went to 5 different countries, so it would have been Austria, England, France, Germany, Luxembourg. I think those were the main countries then. I also visited my friends in Haiti when they were working for Habitat for Humanity. And I also visited India, and that was when I studied Gandhi during that time. So about 5 weeks in India and about 5 weeks in Haiti. And I think we stepped over the border when we went to Tijuana, is that how you say it? And then to Canada. So I'm not widely traveled.
What was your favorite country to visit?
Oh, probably, I think Austria and Switzerland. Yeah, I'd forgotten Switzerland. It was just exciting to be in both of those countries. And to think that that's where, I think Austria was where The Sound of Music was filmed. So that was historical.
Mm-hmm. So what kinds of hobbies do you have right now? How do you spend your time?
I spend my time by, I wouldn't quite call it a hobby, but it's so necessary, and that's keeping up with what's going on in the world. I often will spend from 9 o'clock till 10 o'clock in a prayer group for what's going on in Russia and the Ukraine. It's a real hot spot, and so that's important for me. Peace and justice work, and that often is through the computer, through the writing the letters to the editor, or not so much letters to the editor, but signing petitions and that. I think a hobby, though, is more pleasurable. It's work to work and play for peace and justice, but it's so necessary. So that's, as a retired person, I get great joy being outside in the fresh air, and just riding over here on my bike for the hour that it took to ride over here felt wonderful. It was the air in Lake County is very clear, and to be able to be on the bicycle, it just feels good to be almost 71, and to be able to ride a bicycle. It's a good thing, and it helps me breathe deeply when I exercise in the fresh air. And that the same thing if I'm climbing up one of those hills to take away the garbage, that's another way to be out in the fresh air. So if I'm out in the fresh air, I might just as well do something useful.
So what are you the most proud of that you've done in your life?
I suppose I get great fulfillment when when a student will come up to me and say, "Oh, you were my teacher." That happened at Austin Park the other day when Ashley came up to me and she said, "Do you remember me?" And I said, "Of course I remember you." And we used to do peace prayer dances together that I would teach the children, and then I would offer them to sing and to dance. So to bring joy to other people, that's what I guess I could say I'm most proud of, when I can bring joy to other people, whether it's through music or music and dance together. It's a wonderful experience to have that interaction with another human being.
And what would you describe as the best day of your life?
Oh my goodness. The best day of my life. I don't know that I have one best day of my life. However, there is nothing more exhilarating than on a day when it's 110 degrees to go over to Kelsey Creek Drive and jump in the creek. And the creek is just bracing. It's really chilly. And then finally to just swim the creek back and forth and to not be in that sweltering, ghastly heat and to just cool off in the creek. It's just, there's something about being able to, and I would like to change the name of Kelsey Creek. I'd like to change it to Canocti Creek. It should not be named after a man that slaughtered Native Americans. And so, I'd like to say, the best day of my life is going into Canocti Creek, formerly Kelsey Creek.
And what's the best advice you could give future generations?
Be kind. Be kind. Be kind one to another. Love one another. Work together. Work together for peace and justice. When there's no justice, there's no peace. And real justice for all people.
What have I not asked you that you think it's important for people to know about you?
I think you've covered it.
And is there anything else you want to share?
Probably it's important to be in the moment, because if I'm thinking about the past or the future, I can't enjoy this moment right now. I know it's been said 100 times, but it's just really important to be in this moment, and if you're going to do it, do something, probably, well, like travel or something like that. My bucket list is, one of the things on my bucket list is Australia, because that's where Edwin's mother was from Australia, and people have come from Australia to visit us, and it makes me think that I would like to visit Australia and New Zealand. So probably I should do that before I'm 95 years old.
Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today and for sharing your stories.
You're welcome. Thank you for inviting me. It's really fun to do this, and I'm honored.